Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. Today I am going to do my May wrap up, which I'm super excited about because I haven't done a wrap up video in a while ever, and I'm finally out of my reading slump. So let's go. Okay, so I have my Goodreads pulled up so I can go through the books. Try to keep it short and sweet, but I'm just like super happy that I finally had a good reading month. I've read a decent amount of books that I can actually do a monthly wrap up. If you watched my video on how to get over a reading slump, those are all the types of books that I read this month to just keep me on track and keep me enjoying reading. Like, it's not even about getting to a certain number. I mean, I feel accomplished when I do, because it's like, okay, I didn't like spend all this time like scrolling on my phone or watching TV, which I still obviously watch my go-to reality TV shows, but it just shows kind of where I'm at with my self-care. So the first book that got me out of my April reading slump, and the ice machine, that got me out of my reading slump from April. Like, literally I felt like I was in a reading slump from February to April, but was The Perfect Child by Lucinda Berry. Currently loving Lucinda Berry's books. They're dark, they're thriller, and they're just perfect. So Perfect Child is basically about a disturbed child who gets taken in by a family. The husband who's a surgeon, the wife who's a nurse. This child was found wandering around a parking lot in nothing but a diaper when she was taken in, and she's about 5 years old, but the couple take her in. The husband like has such an attachment to her because he was the surgeon that operated on her, and she had so many broken bones, whatever. But the wife immediately can't form a connection with her because the child is just disturbed and dark and clearly hates the wife. It was a 5-star book for me. The next book, so I read The One and Only Ivan with my students before we went on a field trip this year. I didn't like put that on my Instagram May reads, but I did read The One and Only Ivan. It felt like a book that maybe like my third graders didn't appreciate it enough. Like, they're not like emotionally mature enough for a book like that, because if you are reading it to students or your child, I would say like there is like animal abuse in ways where like it's just unethical, like housing a gorilla in a cement enclosure for like, what was it, 20 some years, which actually happened. My third graders, I don't think it hit them as hard as it even hit me as a first-time reader of this novel. The next book I read was Never Lie by Freida McFadden. It really hooked me right away. The chapters were short. It was honestly like, it hooked me immediately. The storyline, it is about a couple. They go to a house viewing kind of in the middle of nowhere, and then it starts blizzarding and they're stuck in this house for a while, and the wife, Trisha, discovers who owned the house, Adrienne Hale, who was a psychiatrist, and then she had vanished, so it was her house. But then she uncovers all these tapes and recordings between her and her patients that start to piece together what may have happened to her. And that was also a 5-star read for me, so I started off the month so strong. That book I finished, okay, it took me a week. The Perfect Child took me 3 days. I think that's like important to note with some books. For me, like I don't know, it depends how busy I am. The next book I read was Ward D by Freida McFadden. Super excited about this one because it had came out 2 days before I started reading it. It took me 5 days to read. Basically what it was about was this girl, she is a nurse, she's in her nursing school, so she has to take, what would they call it in nursing, like an overnight rotation required for her school, so she's still a student. And so her name is Amy. She goes to the psych ward, and she's dreading it mostly because her ex-best friend is on the psych ward and they haven't spoken since she was like put into the psych ward, and she has been blamed Amy for being in there, and terrible things just keep happening, and Amy is just nervous she won't actually make it out of the psych ward. That was a 3.5. I didn't love it. I felt like the best friend came off really strong. It just wasn't for me. Lots of people loved it, but to me that was a 3.5. It was okay. The next book I read was another Freida McFadden book. I read The Inmate, 5 stars. This book took me 2 days to read, and basically what this one's about, this woman, Brooke, she starts a job at a men's maximum security prison as a nurse. So her job is to like treat all the patients who need medical care. And the really big thing about this is she knows one of the inmates because he was her high school sweetheart, and she's kind of nervous about this because she's the one who actually put him in prison, and he's apparently one of the most dangerous inmates. This book, literally, I loved the storyline. It was amazing. The next one I read was finished, because I started this book forever ago. I started this book April 7th, so I was kind of reading this book throughout the other ones. I started this book April 7th. I finished May 16th. Really good, actually, by Monica Heisey. I gave this book 3 stars. So basically this, I read a book and I'm like, what were the characters' names? So I actually have to like look. So Maggie is our main character in this book. She just went through a divorce after being married for a year, and basically the whole entire book is her going through this divorce and like the entire process of it. I'm not gonna lie, it was so repetitive, boring, annoying for the first 60% of this book. Around the 60% mark, I was like, okay, I've been Maggie. And anyone who has went through a really hard breakup, it's possible that they have also been Maggie. So I kind of had to lean in a little bit and not resent her so much, because I was like, does she just remind me of like my old self? So once I kind of leaned into it and she kind of like started her healing process, I started to like it a bit more. Or like healing process, like I don't know if she currently healed, but it was okay. I said my initial thoughts were after finishing it: 1, I'm glad it's over; 2, it reminded me how awful heartbreak is; and 3, it reminded me that I was a lot like Maggie. But if you are going through a heartbreak, feel like you need someone to relate to, this book could really be for you. Like, I feel like reading this book like 3 years ago, or whatever, years and years ago, this would have been the perfect book for me. Okay, the next book I read was another Lucinda Berry book, Saving Noah. This book took me 2 days to read. My review was, this book has traumatized me for life, is how it starts. But basically, this book is about a boy named Noah. I think he's like 15 years old, and he is like an honor roll star student, captain of the swim team or whatever, and suddenly he admits to his parents or to his mom that he has been molesting little girls, young girls, and life obviously changes from there, and he sentenced to 18 months in a juvenile sexual rehabilitation center. His mom refuses to like give up on him, and it's honestly like a traumatizing, devastating book, like very dark. It is definitely not for everyone, so like truly be prepared for the trigger warnings on like, yeah, sexual assault, rape, pedophilia, suicide. It was a lot. That book was 4 stars for me. The next book I read was The Locked Door by Freida McFadden. I don't even know if I posted my review on Goodreads. I'll have to do that. Anyways, it kind of flashes back between Nora's childhood and her adult life. So during her childhood, she grew up with like a locked door to the basement where her dad was always working on things, but they would never let her down there. And then as an adult, she is a surgeon, but then she like has discovered one of her patients had been murdered, and in the same way that her father would murder people, because okay, so yeah, we do know right away that her father is in prison. So yeah, so her father used to kill people, we know that. Sorry, I didn't know if we knew that, I totally forgot. And so that, because she has a new identity, I think, so no one really knows who she is, but like as soon as like a patient gets murdered in the same way. She starts to realize that someone might know who she is. But yeah, so it was kind of wild. It was very similar to A Flicker in the Dark. It was okay. It was 3 stars. It took me 2 days to read still though. I needed to switch it up after that one because I needed something different. So I read A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers. Basically, this book was so messed up. So if you are queasy, do not read this book. It is about a woman named Dorothy who she writes it as if it's a memoir, even though this book is fiction, about how she ended up in prison for life, and how, because she's a serial killer, she murders men, she eats them, and she kind of just tells the whole story of how it started and how she got to where she's at now. It was different, but it was 4 stars, and that book took me 4 days to read, so it was a hard one to get into, but then it kind of sped up throughout, so it was pretty good. So those are I think I read 8 books. 8 books, not including the one I only have. And I was aiming for 10, but honestly, 8 books is amazing. After that massive reading slump, I'm just grateful to be out of it. I'm currently reading Locked Door by David Ellis. I really was thinking I would finish this one in like a day or two to add to my May, but it's kind of hard to get into, honestly. Oh, and I did add the pop socket to my Kindle, so, and I got a clear case. So progress. Anyways, I think that's it. I hope everyone has another amazing reading month in June. I have an amazing reading month in June. I know it's a busy month for me as a teacher, but I'm gonna push through. I'm gonna try to read in my spare time when I'm waiting in line, and I might just make a video on how to read more in general. So anyways, have a great reading month, everyone. Thank you for watching. You can follow my Booksta at Pages of Books with an extra S at the end, and my Bookstagram at Pages of Books. Bye guys.